Allora, benvenuti a tutti. Ci sono ancora qualche posto qui davanti, vi prego di cercare di trovare posto, non è bello che ci sia gente in piedi anche per motivi di sicurezza. Allora, io sono Marco Melia, sono un professore qui del Politecnico, mi fa piacere vedere tanta gente qui. Sono anche il coordinatore del centro interdipartimentale Smart Data. Ho solo il ruolo di introdurre Stefano Quintarelli, che poi introdurrà lo speaker, eventualmente di vedere e gestire la situazione. L'intervento di oggi secondo me è molto interessante, si parla di internet non in senso tecnico e tecnologico, ma su come internet ha avuto impatto sulla nostra vita e quale sarà anche l'impatto nel futuro, in particolare con aspetti per esempio legati alla privacy e cose di questo genere, di cui mi occupo anch'io personalmente. Quindi mi fa particolarmente piacere anche introdurre Stefano, che si occupa di queste cose anche lui da parecchio tempo, è uno dei fondatori italiani di internet, delle prime reti anche prima di internet stessa. Io ti lascerei direttamente la parola in modo che non perdiamo troppo tempo, ok?
Sì, grazie. Benvenuti a tutti e grazie. Per me è un piacere perché io ho seguito il lavoro di Gert negli anni scorsi e per me è un piacere essere qui con voi ad ascoltarlo. Gert è una persona olandese, si è laureato ad Amsterdam ed è andato poi a lavorare in Australia. Diciamo, ha scritto alcuni libri molto importanti. Dark Fiber è stato dei saggi sulla cultura di internet. Lui si occupa degli aspetti culturali legati a internet, alle modifiche della società e di come internet sta modificando il comportamento di tutti noi, inteso come collettività. Nel suo ultimo libro ha un capitolo molto divertente, molto interessante sui memi. C'è un passaggio che mi ha intrigato particolarmente quando dice che forse una ragione di successo dei social network è che hanno la parola social all'interno e che quindi evoca in qualche modo il socialismo. Vabbè, è il padre dell'idea dei media tattici e niente, insomma, è una persona che vale la pena ascoltare. Facciamogli un benvenuto con un grande applauso. Grazie Gert.
I'm really humbled by the amount of people that attend this lecture. I understand Italian. If you want to ask a question, it's okay to do that in Italian. Unfortunately, this presentation will be in English. So my Italian is not good enough, and that is a shame. Anyway, I'm going to give you a presentation, and while I'm talking about the projects and things that we do, I will focus on the ideas, the concepts, the critiques, right? So this is just to give you an idea of the breadth of and the scope of what we do here in my institute. It's a very small room. We are only 3 or 4 people, so please don't think. But there are always a lot of Italians that join us. So, and if you are interested to come and visit us, or do an internship, or collaborate with us, or if you want to publish a text with us, or join one of the networks, please do so. Many Italians are part of the Institute of Network Cultures. So the ties between Amsterdam and Italy are very strong. And this is why I'm here today. And it's a real pleasure to present the work. Okay, this is a very small research center in Politecnico. The biggest one in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam, the Hogeschool from Amsterdam. And we are doing practice-based research. So we are not a university, we do applied science research, right? And that's okay with me because I come from the autonomous movement, the squatter movement, the social movements. And so to do something in practice is something that I've been doing all my life. So I am very pleased with the idea of applied research, right? critical research that makes a difference, where we do not only critique, but also work on the alternatives, right? So throughout my life, I've been trying to formulate a radical critique and at the same time develop alternatives. No matter how small, sometimes they're on the level of concepts, software, networks, yeah, and beyond that. Okay. I'm not going to talk now about 90s, but obviously, well, we know a little bit of the sequence of the network cultures, right? And this is kind of the result of the 90s. And when I did my PhD in Melbourne, Australia, I then, after that, got an offer to have my own research center. And it meant that I had to move back to Amsterdam. And I was willing to do that, and because it's very precious to have something like this, no matter how small, to have some kind of an autonomous unit, you know, where we don't have to work and refuse to work for Facebook or Google or any of the big industry players, but try to make a difference. This is really something, and I'm really fighting to defend it, because obviously there are many, many people who want to close it down, and so it is important for me also to understand the politics of the funding and the politics of higher education. One of the things that we do is we build up networks. This is the oldest one, and it started in 2006, right at the beginning of YouTube. So Video Vortex is the same age as YouTube. And it tried to formulate a question of what is the politics and aesthetics of online video. What is online video? Online video has been around, in fact, for a long time, and it already existed in the late 80s and 90s, right? So YouTube came quite late. And we just published a book by Trine Berry on the prehistory of online video before 2005, right? Okay, so it is quite important to understand what is what is online video when you compare it to television and when you compare it to cinema. And obviously there, the notion of Lev Manowitz is important, that video, online video, is a database. We are watching a database. And we are ourselves contributing to that database with comments, with recommendation, with interactions of the algorithms, right? And this basic idea is still really new. And so there are very few people still, even almost 15 years later, that work on the theory of online video. So I would really invite you, if you are interested, to join this. And we need the new Eisensteins and Vertovs, yeah, of our age. Where are they? Are they here in this hall? I hope so. Yeah, this is the idea. Okay, there are some other smaller and bigger projects. This one was about, it kind of died. Not all the networks are successful, especially because we can't find the funding for it, which is kind of obvious when you ask critical questions. This is Society of the Query and deals with the question of the architecture of the search engines. Search engines, we don't talk about them anymore. They are kind of a given, right? We go to them, we visit them, and in milliseconds we look up something and then go further, right? So the search engines have become kind of part of our collective unconscious, which is, of course, to the benefit, especially of Google, who is no longer questioned, because we are no longer debating the search engines, which I think is a pity, but okay, there are now more urgent questions. The same we can say about critical research into Wikipedia. I don't know, probably you all use Wikipedia maybe once a day, but you don't really notice it anymore. So same situation. As with the search engines, we take it for granted, Maybe some of you, who is contributing to Wikipedia here? Who is contributing? One, maybe? Yeah, I saw one. Okay, so two. Okay, so 2 people out of 350 are contributing. And, you know, I mean, that was different, let's say, 10 years ago. But this is the biggest non-profit initiative on the internet. Still very valuable, but yeah, we no longer pay attention. We take it for granted. And this is kind of the general development that we have seen over the last 10 or 20 years, right? The internet is being taken for granted. It is kind of becoming a subconscious infrastructure, right? This has, of course, some good sides, because it means that it's fully integrated in the everyday life, right? You are using it every day. But the politics of it is also then thereby often going in the background. And we need to bring the question of the politics, especially in a European perspective, compared to the geopolitical players of China and Silicon Valley. We need to politicize that situation again. Okay, here, this is kind of a summary. This is how we work. It's a very simple model. I'm more like Feierabend, anti-method. So I don't like methodology. But okay, this explains maybe a little bit how we work. We create networks around those topics. And then we bring people together, like in a hall, like here. And then also we produce our own publications, right? And the publications are becoming more important to understand. Okay, now I move on because this is the latest network that we started 6 years ago already. And it's called Money Lab. And of course, it's a response to the financial crisis of 2008. And we saw that this kind of model of the Silicon Valley, that everything is offered for free in exchange for data, is coming to an end, right? So we need to, in a way, financialize the internet so that we, the producers, can also get a share. And not just get a share of the Google advertisement, but get a real share in a peer-to-peer fashion. You know, that if you look at something from me, you will be able to pay me directly. This is entirely possible. Yeah, this is not a utopia, but there are very, very powerful forces that prevent us from installing such direct payment systems. And the biggest ones are, of course, in Silicon Valley, because they profit from the fact that we got used to the fact that everything is for free. Yeah? And that in exchange for those free services, we give them their data. Okay, this is kind of what you could call the social contract of the internet. And this social contract is slowly but steadily coming into a crisis. And the arrival on the scene of Bitcoin in 2009 is, of course, a very important moment there. But there are many, many other things that happened around the same time. The growth of crowdfunding, the growth of local currencies, and in general, the debate about, let's say, global finance. Here you see the latest one. It's in fact next week happening in Amsterdam. And we're very happy that we finally found the funding again to do a big conference like this, 2 days about these topics. So this is number 7. I would like to say that number 8 is on 24 and 25 of March in Ljubljana, not so far from here. And then another one after the summer is happening in Helsinki a much more speculative, if you like, Deleuzian edition of MI.NE.R.S. And there's also one coming up in Australia, which will also involve many of the players in this field from Southeast Asia. Here you can see the themes that we are covering right now. There's a strong emphasis here on the feminist critique of the blockchain, and a strong emphasis on what we call feminist economics. Because unfortunately, as you might know, almost 100% of the developers of cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, and the blockchain are right-wing libertarian geeks, male geeks. And with this comes a whole kind of package of ideological pre-assumptions that are now being baked, being put in the code, right? So these are societal values that are now part of the financial system that we are building. And it is one of the ideas of the Money Lab that we criticize this and that we make these agendas that are in the code much, much more explicit. You can also see here a few other elements. Money Lab is a network that is explicitly multidisciplinary. It means that we are primarily focusing on artists and designers. So the visual aspect is very important. Not, again, only on the code. So we kind of create a critique of the code through the arts. This is important. To understand the premises and the architectures that we are building. As you might have heard, Facebook is now developing the Libra initiative. We don't really know if it's going to succeed, but Facebook is a very large player. But then again, also quite modest in comparison to Alipay and WePay, right? If you compare how far behind Silicon Valley is with this, some people say they are behind 5 to 10 years in comparison to the payment systems that the Chinese have already implemented and that are already in use by around 1 billion people, right? Okay, you can say, okay, Facebook is 2.3 billion, that's 2.5 times the size, but nonetheless, okay, the size of them matters, but it is quite interesting that for the first time in history, Silicon Valley is 5 to 10 years behind. And why is this? Because they are resisting up to today to kind of dismantle what we call the economy of the free, right? They are continuing with this idea, and they will continue to steal your data until, let's say, there is an alternative system in place that will provide them, of course this is the idea, that will provide them with even more profit, right? Because if Facebook can define what money is itself, right, then they are also our central bank. They can, it's obvious that people in Europe, especially politicians and the powers to be, became very, very scared, and Germany and France first, and then Italy too, and I think 1 or 2 other countries already said there's going to be a straight-out ban of Libra, right, in Europe, which is interesting, and I've now tried to explain to you why they are so afraid of this. So this will be all these topics we will discuss next week. We have a mailing list, a blog, and so if you please join. Then I go to the other pillar of what we do. At the moment, our activities are very reduced because of funding cuts and budget cuts in the Netherlands. Okay, so we do primarily two things. One is the Money Lab thing. The other one is to strategically think about digital publishing. Why should a book? I've written this book, Sad by Design. Why is it not open access? Why is it not online? I looked this morning, by the way. Somebody from Mexico sent me a link and said, okay, the illegal EPUB version is on LibGen, so that's an interesting development. So this is hosted in Siberia somewhere. Maybe you all know and maybe use it already. But why should we continue like this, right? Why should we use these arcane publishing methods when we already know that for 20 years we have the technology, we have the software to organize the publishing in a very different way. Okay, so this project right now is called Urgent Publishing. And there we look at also the question of kind of a proliferation of publishing platforms, right? In the 90s, this was called multimedia, remember. You had the text, the video, the audio. Well, basically, that's where we are still, right? And then nowadays, you must think of the integration of small videos. I had to walk out to give a small video statement, right? So that was a video file that was created, probably for the website from here. So we are communicating in a very different way already. We are using links and we are using, so from the user perspective, we are already fully multimedia, to use the old term, right? But the institutional reality is a very, very different one. Yeah? There we have all sorts of problems, not just only with the copyright, but especially also with the integration. So for us, it's very important to continue to do these experiments. For instance, this is a while ago, from 2 or 3 years ago. This is our manual how to create an EPUB. Okay, you can say, okay, EPUB, who cares? No, it's important. EPUB is the standard that is used for smartphones. If you look at the global statistics, you will see that already 80% of usage goes through smartphones. So and especially also in the so-called non-Western world, right? So, so to develop EPUBs that can be read on smartphones is very, very important strategic knowledge. And in fact, a lot of our Italian friends who come to Amsterdam, we are working with them to further develop these skills, to understand, to have a broader understanding of publishing. Here you see our most, let's say, active, or most famous, I don't know, but most active publishing series. It's called Theory on Demand. These are ebooks, and we help to produce them. Not all of them are, by the way, in English, but many of them. So we also help with the translation and the editing of the text, etc. Here you see another one by my Milan friend, Alex Forti, from San Precario a while ago. So this is his general theory of the precariat, which we published in English. And next to it is a study from Croatia, from Ana Pirajka, which deals with the history and the theory of the selfie. These publishing initiatives are also important if we try to combine them with the Money Lab topic, namely how are cultural producers, critics, artists, designers are going to make a living in the 21st century? How are you going to make money, right? And if it's up to Silicon Valley, you are not going to make any money. So this is already decided for you, right? Except for a very, very few group of influencers. And well, we know how, how in a way precarious even the influencers are, because yeah, they can be out of fashion tomorrow, and then their ad revenues from YouTube and Instagram, etc., Facebook, can disappear overnight. We need to come to more sustainable long-term revenue models. And there's a group that is particularly in danger at the moment, and they are the critics. Because who the hell is going to pay for the critics, right? If you think about 50 or 100 years ago, the critics still had some kind of position in society, right? They worked in a magazine, or maybe they were teaching, something like that, right? But where are the critics now? And anyway, and I've experienced it myself, because I am, if you like, still very much tied to the idea of net criticism, internet criticism. 25 years ago, I started with Pitt Schultz, the Net Time Initiative, with a very simple question. Okay, there's film criticism, there's literary criticism. We know that. There's theater criticism. It all has a history, it has concepts. Yeah, you can read about it. But who is going to take care of internet criticism? Probably nobody, right? And that was already clear 25 years ago. Academia is not going to do it. Google and Facebook have obviously no interest in it, right? So it was very, very clear that we need a much, much more activist approach to at least address this question. And we knew, and we found out over the years, that an economic basis for this is very, very important. And hopefully, through the blockchain, cryptocurrencies, etc., we will finally, over the next decade, maybe make some progress there. Okay, another field that I myself I'm interested in and active in is design. Now, we're in Italy here, that's good, in Torino, so I don't need to explain to you the importance of design and the position that design has in society. In that sense, Italy and the Netherlands are very close. We have the Dutch Design Week, and the Italian equivalent in Milano, so we don't have to explain that here. However, what is needed more is the question again of who is going to develop, the critical design theory. And this is really in danger, because it's not taught in art schools, not taught in universities, right? Okay, a little bit of art history, but yeah, let's say very closely tied to the profession, because the design profession is changing very much. And this manifesto that I wrote here, I've got a copy here in paper. There's not so many paper versions of it, but yeah, you get the idea how it looks like. It's a manifesto. And I've written that with MI.NE.R.S. And in this manifesto, we asked the question again about the changing role of design and design critique in society. And we know, maybe if you follow it or not, there's a tremendous rise of design that is going in other fields, in management, and then it's called design thinking, in product design, and then it's called design research, right? The graphic design, on the other hand, has almost died. And that is, of course, because the printing has gone down, and instead we have a lot of the rise of, well, in the beginning it was called web design. Nowadays, yeah, people don't even have a name for it. Of course, it's taught in certain classes like UX other things, very, very applied, very commercial knowledge how to build apps. By the way, my research center is based in a school with 1,500 young people like you, and the only thing they learn there and do is build apps, right? This is what happens nowadays. Yeah, there is no graphic design anymore. This has all been transformed, and the only thing young people do now, if they want to have critical skills that at least make some money, they at least have to be app designers. Okay, this is also a space that we have, and here you see the latest exhibition. It opened, I think, 3 or 4 weeks ago, and this is an installation that MI.NE.R.S made. Kind of two zombie armies. The one is, as you can see here, they are the ones that have completely disappeared into virtual reality. And on the other hand, the other army that is completely sucked into the world of the smartphone and is kind of addicted to the phone. So in here you can see also in the background there's a lot of slogans. This is kind of also what I do and love. I develop a lot of kind of sloganisms, and we, together with MI.NE.R.S, I'm turning them into campaigns, books, exhibitions, etc., etc. Okay. Now I want to move on and say again a little bit more about my own work, because I try to divide a little bit my time between what I do at the Institute of Network Cultures and my own writing, right? So I wouldn't say I do it more or less on the side, but yeah, my writing is also very much informed by all the activities and developments. Again, with the idea that we try to do the impossible. And the impossible today is to critique the real-time development. Now, according to the philosopher of speed, the French philosopher Paul Virilio, it is nowadays impossible to critique the real time. How do you do that, right? Because you need to step back, you need to observe it, you need to develop some kind of a reflection. But we already know that if we reflect and then come back a little later to the object of study, the object has already changed, right? And so this is the really difficult task that we have in internet theory, that we kind of, in a way, what we need is some kind of futuristic project, right? We need, in a way, again, some kind of avant-garde position. But the avant-garde position is not there, right? We're not living in the age of futurism, Dadaism, surrealism, not even in the age of situationism, right? We know that this model of the avant-garde has come in a crisis. This crisis became manifest maybe 40, 50 years ago, right? But this is putting us in a very difficult position, because how can we critique the perpetually changing present and also have a position where we say, okay, we critique it, but we also have an alternative, right? So this is kind of an impossible situation we find ourselves in. And of course, I'm very close and very, near in the thinking with Franco Berardi in Bologna. So I'm kind of the 10-year younger. I'm not his son, but I'm kind of the younger brother or something like that, 10-year younger brother. And of course, there are many others. I would also like to mention here the one who didn't make it in the end is Mark Fisher. He got very, very depressed and 2-3 years ago, he committed suicide. So my work is also very, very much informed by him, and also by Franco Berardi, and we do not give up to ask, let's say, these strategic questions. We don't, of course, only need strategic questions, we also need kind of firm research of the present. Okay, and that's what I'm presenting this afternoon. I forgot the space where it is, but you can see me in action again at 4 o'clock in the, I don't know, which one? Circolo, yeah, yeah. Okay, so look it up, it's not here, it's close by, and there I will do a presentation of my new book. It came out in May, also in Italian. Here you see the English and the Spanish version. I'm really proud that it came out in so many languages at the same time. Okay, here you can see the table of content. And this is important because it tells a little bit about where I think we are. Now, in this last book, I look at the developments of the last 2 or 3 years. And that's, of course, the period after 2016, the year of Brexit, Trump, and Cambridge Analytica, right? These 3 events are really a big shift, again, in internet culture and in awareness, right? This is also a period, of course, where we see the rise of geopolitics and the 3 big blocs: America, Europe, Russia in a way, and China, right? 3, 4, it's a bit questionable how many really big blocs there are, and if Russia, you know, can become a world player again, yes or no. I was in a fortunate position this year that my first book came out in Russian, and I did a tour in Russia, and it was an amazing experience to see the Russian intelligentsia, so many young people, highly educated, very critical, much like you here, right? And so we often, of course, associate Russia with Putin and everything, with the war in Ukraine. But, you know, if you go there, you will meet an enormous amount of people that are very much, you know, on the same page as we are, that fully understand the situation that is going on. Yeah, people are very well informed. Unlike maybe in China, there is no censorship to speak of in that sense. Maybe on the state media, old media, yes, but in general, people are very informed. And so this is a very good sign in a way. So, you know, please expect a lot to come in the next couple of years, 5 to 10 years, from Russia. Very interesting developments, especially because they're, for instance, working on the theory of the sovereign data, or the data sovereignty, the internet sovereignty, yeah? Can we develop a sense of self-governance, sovereignty, without, let's say, copying the agenda of the right-wing nationalists? Is this possible? Right? Can we take some kind of control again over the destiny of these media that are so crucial for our everyday life, politics, but also culture, education, healthcare, you name it. The implications of this are very vast, and a new theory of sovereignty in the digital realm is absolutely essential here. Okay, 2 years ago, we did a big selfie conference in Rome together with MI.NE.R.S and John Cabot University on the politics and aesthetics of the selfie. And the online self is really an important realm. It's an important field because, yeah, we are all directly involved in it, right? So the production of subjectivity is something that is really important in the internet context. And, you know, there's still a lot of space for development there, we think. Okay, we can laugh about the selfie. Okay, that's okay. You make a selfie or not, it doesn't really matter, right? This is not the point. The point of theory is not that we try to police ourselves or the other, like, oh, selfie is stupid or something like that. It's not about developing some kind of moralistic approach, because the construction of the online self is way too important to just reduce it to moralism or even to ethics, for that matter. So in the book, I have two chapters about this. One is 7 and 8. One is about the selfie, technologies of the minimal selfie, and the other one is about mask design. And mask design is kind of the opposite phenomena of it, right? The selfie tries to express, you know, this is me, I'm laughing, I'm doing well, whatever. But the mask is doing precisely the same, because it says, you know, you can't see me, you can't trace me. And this is very important. Think of the recent developments in Hong Kong. Yeah, this is a kind of almost constitutional and a priori. Yeah, people need to protect their faces from authorities. This is very, very important. This is not just a fashion statement. Even though, you know, of course, the mask has a fashion in itself. Okay. There's also a chapter in the book in which I try to look back a little bit on my own career and where I kind of struggle with these three big concepts. One is the media concept, McLuhan, Kittler, German media theory, all this stuff. New media, of course, the 90s. And now, yeah, social media, although I do not consider social media, you know, as part of the media landscape. But okay, they still have that name. Then, of course, there's the network. And the network, yeah, was developed maybe earlier, but yeah, really became very important in the 90s. And here in Italy, you still have an active relationship to the networks, right? A lot of Italians always speak about the social networks and so on, right? Elsewhere in the world, this is gone, right? No, Italy is one of the last places where people speak about social networks. Because they are dear to you, I think, and so you can still, in your language, make a distinction between the social media platforms and the big giants and some other idea of what social networks could be, right? But in the everyday life, you are also mixing them up. So you go to the social networks, but in fact you mean, I go to check Facebook, right? Okay, so this notion of networks is kind of disappearing. It's in a crisis. Why? Because of the rise of the platforms. And this is kind of where we are now, right? And we all know that. Today, we have almost a kind of ontological struggle between the centralized notion of the platform and the decentralized idea of the network. Okay? So this is kind of where we are today. And yeah, this is unresolved, I have to say. So I cannot say, oh, networks is a completely history. In the future, we will only have platforms. No. It's more like a battle that is going on, ideological battle, battle also in terms of software code, but also, of course, first and foremost, platforms are financed. So the money is really playing an important role in there. Now, I think 2 books are important here to understand. Of course, there's Nick Strinek's Platform Capitalism book from 2016. I need to mention that as well. But there are 2 American books that I think are quite influential still in the debate. And one is Benjamin Bratton's The Stack, which is more like a speculative design, very much informed by design, I would say, software design, a kind of a meta theory. I don't think is it already available in Italian? No, huh? No, not yet, huh? No. Okay. And then, of course, there is, since early this year, there's Zsuzsanna Zuboff's Surveillance Capitalism book, which kind of describes in detail what she calls behavioral surplus economy, particularly of Facebook and Google, where they kind of, in a mysterious process, change the data they've stolen from you and turn them into money and profit, right? Now, this is not so easy to answer, like, okay, I have data, so I'm rich. No, you know. And in this 700-page classic, she tries to describe how this transformation works internally. And that's a really good thing. So there are, of course, maybe some of you have read the critique of Eugene Morozov of her book. Of course, she is not anti-capitalist. She is kind of a traditional social democrat, we could say, right? Maybe even comparable to Marx. Marx was also a social democrat. He was not a Marxist at the time, right? He was very much part of the labor union, and so this is maybe also how we could look at her. She is a reformist in that sense, or maybe a bit more on the Karl Krautsky side of it, if we move on, maybe 30, 40 years later after the death of Marx. Okay, so this is clear, and you need to know that. This is not, in that sense, a radical book, but in a way, you could say that the same about Das Kapital. Das Kapital is not a radical book. It explains how capitalism works, first of all. You need to understand how capitalism works if you want to critique it. And the same Zsuzsanna Zuboff does with this mysterious transformation of which she coins behavioral surplus. Okay. Yeah, I often ask myself, I have very strong ties to the German context, and you know, where are the German internet theorists? They're not around. Of course, the same can be said about France, of course. We're not even talking about France here, which is a scandal, a pity. You know, where are they? Not to be seen. In this whole context. But, okay, what is happening in Germany? And I just want to show 2, let's say, books of this year that came out in the German context. And Nashedi book about patterns is a very interesting one. Because it kind of starts in the present. And it asks the question of what is the theory of digitization? And for me, this is a really strange question in a way. Like digitization, I thought that was happening in the 90s and was finished, right? The phase of digitization, we've kind of already finished with that. All the processes that can be digitized have already been digitized, right? And the fights, the big fights, are not happening there. But, okay, in Germany, especially in the last couple of years in academia, we see that a lot of people start to develop some sort of general theory of digitization. And with that, they try to very eloquently to talk about the internet, right? They don't want to talk about the internet because, yeah, obviously, yeah, if you listen to my lecture, you will maybe notice, yeah, there are lots of problems. There are platforms, there are monopolies, etc. So if you don't want to go there, then there's a whole other field which is opening up now, which is much, much less critical. And this is the theory of digitization, right? And of course, everything is and will be digitized. And this is a good thing, right? So you can go in any direction. You can talk about the digitization of healthcare. Of course, well, we know, big topic. In the Netherlands, also a very big topic, maybe here too, the digitization of agriculture, right? All the processes in farming are being digitized, controlled, surveyed, you name it, quantified. The digitization of logistics, very big topic. No, and so on, and so on, and so on, right? And so what is needed there is a theory of digitization. I'm just saying it. We need to understand that this transformation is happening right now. And we also see that a lot of less critical thinkers and money, especially funding, is going away from the internet because the internet is messy. We know that. It's a huge pile of mess. Fake news, trolls, you name it, right? It's in the news, it's everywhere, right? So the IT funding has found artificial intelligence, big data, machine learning as very, very eloquent fields to move their funding to so that they don't have to talk about the power structures and the economic questions, right? What we see happening there in the move of the funding of artificial intelligence, big data, and machine learning is that the entire funding is moving to the background. To the question, namely, okay, we have the internet, it's producing the data, but what are we going to do with the data? And of course, there, the first question is we have to move the data away. We have to own them, and then what we do, we process them. And this is what we also see here happening in one very specific field with Zubov. She describes what happens once these tech giants have stolen the data, and then once they got it, what are they going to do about it? Now, this is a very economic field. In the field of, let's say, digitization or artificial intelligence, it is much more about the question of knowledge. Not so much economics, but how can we extract knowledge from the data? Presumed, of course, that we have stolen them and that we own them, right? This is a very important pre-assumption, because otherwise you can talk whatever you like, but you know, if you don't have the data, you cannot put the algorithms on them, you cannot, and you cannot surveil them, etc. Okay. I want to close here with a reference again to my lecture at 4 o'clock, which is about SAD by design. And in the afternoon, I'm looking much more at the, let's say, the mental impact that this transformation into a platform economy, into platform capitalism is having on billions and billions of users. And the sadness, let's say, is only one of many, many mental states that there are, right? I mean, some people talk about depression, which is very serious, medical issue. We can also talk about boredom. We can talk about anger. And we can even develop a gender theory there, where the maybe a bit more older males are responding in an anger way, whereas the female side is maybe more prone to contemporary forms of melancholia and sadness, for instance. But okay, these are just theories. So if you are interested in this other side, which is maybe, I have to say it's less critical, but it is important to understand, let's say, the mass psychology of the internet, as I already described it in the 90s. The question also of the technical induced states of mind, you know, that are produced by what the industry is called behavioral modifications. And that's, for instance, what this center, now a think tank lobby in Washington, is doing. The main character here is Tristan Harris and a bunch of other dissidents from Silicon Valley who worked inside the industry and then after Cambridge Analytica decided to become either a whistleblower or just leave. Another prominent figure, for instance, is the inventor of the like button, and so on, right? So this is a group of people in America who also want to include the mental aspect of it. In my lecture today, I've primarily focused on the political economy and maybe the financial and the publishing, this kind of. But obviously, the mental state is also very important. These are some nice emojis, and it comes from a Slovenian designer. And I'm showing them also just to ask the question of, you know, will there be also a European response, a European theory, you know, where we take the mental states of young people as serious as they do in America. Thank you very much. Okay, yeah, it's time for questions, and the mic will go up, so please, where can we start? Who wants to discuss something? Please start, yeah, okay, here.
Sorry, earlier in your presentation you said that you don't consider social media part of media. Why do you think that?
Pardon?
You don't consider social media part of media.
Yeah.
Why don't you consider that?
Okay. First of all, I think that with media, there is still a certain aspect of in it always of broadcasting. Now we can say, okay, broadcasting since 90s maybe has, or 80s, has been opened up. Maybe we no longer talk about broadcasting, we talk about narrowcasting, we talk about multiple platforms, multiple ways. However, I think that what's very important about the social media is they do not exist without the constitutional input from the users. For instance, just sit in front of Facebook sit there, open the page, but don't click, don't do anything. What happens? Nothing happens, right? There is no social media without us clicking, contributing, creating a network, uploading, whatever, right? So, so in that sense, these are media that are entirely based on kind of uploading and the online subjectivity of the users. They don't offer content themselves. And there was, of course, a certain moment, in history where we said, okay, is Silicon Valley going to produce its own content? And yeah, I think we've kind of lost that momentum. One interesting, of course, development is the rise of Netflix in that sense. Yeah, but Netflix we don't consider part of the social media per se, right? But Netflix, yes, is the first probably platform that is, putting billions and billions of dollars into the production of content specifically for the internet. All the others have a kind of a reverse model where all the content will be sucked in from others, from outside, from us.
And in your opinion, who should deal with, internet critique? Because academia seems like a very close and, I don't know what to say, traditional institution. So I don't think that they would understand the implication that internet has on the present and the future. So who should deal with internet critique?
Yeah, good question. Coming from 90s, let's say also from, I think a lot of the people would have some kind of a background from the social movements on the one hand and from the cultural sector on the other. And indeed not from academia. They would probably have some kind of academic background, but yeah, it's just not happening. And even now, 25 years later, we know, where can you seriously study internet studies as a full-time, BA or MA degree? Yeah, I can't answer that question. Still 25 years later, yeah, maybe some people look at media studies, but then you have to argue with film studies people. It's kind of a useless fight, right? Yeah. So that's, we're in a void there.
First of all, thank you very much for your inspirational talk. I think it would be very useful for this engineer's culture. And my question is, when you talk about sad and sadness, what do you mean exactly? A psychological sadness, a social sadness? Can you go more in depth of this concept?
Yes and no, because I give a whole lecture at 4 o'clock just about that only question. That only question. So this is, but the thing is, the sadness arises when it's all too much. This is so in a way, the sadness was discovered by technologists when they were starting to dig deeper into what maybe 10 or 20 years ago was called information overload. We don't talk about information overload anymore because, yeah, we get used to it and we kind of deal with it. But the sadness is produced by software, and there's a lot of evidence for that, and especially that, let's say, think tank in Washington, if you are interested, that is now specializing in that research to show how tech giants are producing this sadness and have seen that they can make money with it. So if they induce it, if they promote it, they can make more money.
Thank you very much for your talk. You were talking about the link between right wing, between libertarians and money and this new developments of. Can you develop a little bit more on that, please? Where is the link? Why?
Well, why it happened?
Why it happened?
Why the majority of the blockchain developers have this political background? You mean?
Is there a meaning? Is it casual or is it
well, first of all, I would say this is very much related to the question of an ancient 90s belief still that the internet or cyberspace is autonomous space. It has some kind of autarky or has some kind of special status. And that the normal laws, etc., of society and the nation states, and they don't apply there, right? And this is already a very, very important kind of premise, namely, well, you could also say it's an anarchist premise, but then it is a right-wing premise, and if you want to know more, you can read more, for instance, about what is called, anarcho-capitalism. Anarcho-capitalism is an approach where they say, well, you know, the money and the resources that we develop, they are ours. And the state cannot do any taxation about it, and they cannot have any say about. They cannot regulate it, and so on. And these are ideas that are still dominant in most of the, you know, if you go to a regular blockchain event, you will meet many of these cyber gurus that are spreading these ideas.
Hi, I just wanted to know, what can we do to help you through your mission? Like, what is our task in our everyday life?
Okay. Well, first of all, I would say just experiment with alternatives. And, you know, and maybe 5 years ago, we were still a little bit desperate. Because, there were no alternatives, and But now, I mean, in a way, I'm very optimistic. Because, you know, for the first time, we have a feeling that there's plenty of alternatives. And they are waiting for you, for all you here, to start to experiment with them and, you know, just deinstall, then don't use the Google search engine anymore. Use DuckDuckGo instead of the normal social media, and use Mastodon, and so on and so on. Use OpenStreetMaps. The list goes on and on. Yeah, I'm not even listing them here anymore because there are so many. And this is good news. This is fabulous. But also, it's very important for you to understand that you need to organize yourself. And this is one of the biggest problems. And Franco Berardi is talking about it much more than I do. I showed my book that I wrote together with Ned Rossiter here. I didn't mention it. But there we talk about, you know, what is the question of organization in the age of social media. Yeah? And this is a really big issue. And please, you know, come up with new ideas there. And everybody is looking at Italy. You know, the whole world is looking at Italy. What will you do with this question, right? Because this is the key question. Okay, and there are some ingredients. For instance, if we look at Hong Kong, or if we look at other places, yeah. But Italy has a very rich tradition in this, and you know, yeah. If there is a historical task for you, that's it. Thank you. Yeah, there. Yeah.
Which is your academic background?
Okay, thank you. Okay, in '77, I started studying political science and philosophy and sociology. And then, yeah, I tried to combine that with the squatter movement and all the social movements at the time. And then, but then around 83, 84, when I moved to Berlin and West Berlin, I got much more interested in the humanities, or the philosophy side. And then I became very big involved in German media theory. My main examples are Klaus Teweleit, the one who wrote the historical book Male Fantasies, which is still my role model when it comes to, you know, how, let's say, psychoanalysis can be used with media. Because, yeah, if you want, yeah, because this is one of the things I studied, and it disappeared. But you can still look at me as the last representative of mass psychology. So I'm a mass psychologist, and I'm very proud of that. I studied it, but precisely when I studied it, they closed down the faculty for many reasons that you know, I've also written about, in fact. But okay, there are no more masses, there are no more mass media, to answer the, you know, the media question. And instead of the masses, we have the networks. Okay, that's the answer. And nowadays, yeah, I consider myself maybe a little bit more of a humanities person, but my background is in the social sciences. And for instance, now I'm doing a big study on the history of sociology, looking at sociology completely with the full 100% of the lens of the social media. And this is a question I asked already in a book that came out in 2012, namely, what is the social in social media? What is the social? What is that? And social, isn't that something that sociology should deal with? Huh? Yeah, maybe, or not? How many sociologists do we know that have you know, written influential works on social media? Not many. So yeah, so I'm intrigued by that. So I'm a little bit both. Thank you for the question.
Sorry, before you talk about the concept of mask, can you explain a little better this in front of selfie?
Okay. You mean how they contrast?
Yes.
Okay.
The difference
well, very
them.
simple. The mask tries to hide the self, right? And the selfie tries to express it. Huh? But both of them are, of course, formats, and that's where they meet. So there are certain formats for the selfie, and we know that from the very well-known duck face to all sorts of poses, and yeah. By the way, at the moment we are wrapping up in Rome the study on the selfie. So, and that comes out with Palgrave next year. So, and I already pointed out to the study of Anna Perajka. Yeah, so there are very, very interesting studies happening about the selfie and the online self. Now, about the mask. Yeah, the mask maybe is more associated with, of course, anonymous, and with a lot of kind of movements. The question of the mask, to be honest, now is how effective is the mask? Or is the mask a gesture, a theatrical gesture, maybe a kind of desperate gesture? Or is it really still something that has some real effects, right? And we see that the debate happening, there's a lot happening in the field of facial recognition, right? We know that. Facial recognition is being rolled out. At the same time, it's in complete crisis. Now, that is very interesting. There's a really big clash happening in society everywhere. Think of the law that was announced earlier this year in California against a ban on facial recognition. Now, this is very, very interesting, right? And so we see that both the mask and the selfie, are still relevant references in that sense to talk about, the constitution of the online self. Okay, I think that's about it. Again, thank you very much for your attention.